The morning unfolded like a breath. Soft light draped itself across the narrow streets, catching on dew and window panes, as if the world too had slowed to listen. Sophia walked without hurry. Each step was measured, her body finally remembering how to move without urgency. The air outside of Edith's shop carried the scent of sage and rain. The wooden sign above the door, the lantern's path, creaked gently in the breeze, a sound she once found haunting, but now heard as familiar, almost kind. When she pushed open the door, the bell above it chimed a single note, clear, resonant, and still. Inside, the world felt softer. Light filtered through the old glass jars, filling, filled with herbs and crystals, scattering colors that danced across the shelves. The faint hint of a singing bowl lingered in the background, blending with the slow rhythm of her breath. For a long moment, Sophia simply stood there, not moving, not speaking. She realized that she hadn't felt this kind of stillness in months, not since before the flames, before the silence, before she lost herself trying to reach him. Ah, Edith's voice came from behind the counter, warm and knowing. You found it. Sophia turned. The woman's eyes carried this familiar spark, the kind that saw through the noise of words. Found what? Sophia asked, though she already sensed the answer. The quiet beneath the fire, Edith said softly. The space between what burns and what remains. Sophia's lips parted to reply, but no words came. There was no need. For once, she didn't need to explain her piece. She could simply be. She drifted toward the small corner where she used to sit, where the smell of frankincense lingered and sunlight touched the floor in shifting patterns. Her fingers brushed the edges of an old book that she once read during her darkest days, the title being The Art of Listening to God, shimmered faintly in gold. Her reflection wavered in the shop's glass cabinet. Faint but steady, a woman softer now, her eyes no longer searching for signs in the distance, but seeing them in the stillness before her. Edith poured 2 cups of tea. Sit, she said. Let's talk when you're ready. Sophia nodded, lowering herself into the chair. The steam rose like a whisper between them. Outside, the wind carried the faintest echo of chimes. Inside, there was only peace, and the quiet knowing that something within her had finally come home. For a while they sat without words, only the quiet hum of the kettle and the faint ticking of the wall clock filled the space. Small, gentle sounds that somehow made the silence feel alive. Sophia traced her finger along the rim of her teacup, watching the thin thread of steam curl upward and disappear. I almost came here so many times, she finally said, her voice a tender whisper. There were days when I was certain I couldn't bear the silence anymore. Edith looked up, eyes sharp and understanding. And yet you didn't. Sophia smiled faintly. No, something always stopped me. I'd pick up the phone or stand by the door, and then stillness would come over me. It felt like an invisible hand on my shoulder saying, not yet. Edith nodded slowly. The soul has its timing, child. The heart rushes, but the spirit waits for alignment. Sophia's gaze dropped to her lap. I thought it was fear at first, that I was just afraid of hearing my own longing out loud. But it wasn't fear. It was something else, something that told me I wasn't supposed to chase anything anymore. Edith's eyes glimmered like candlelight. And so you stopped running. Sophia exhaled, her chest loosening with the words, yes. For the first time in my life, I stopped trying to fix, to reach, to do. I just sat in it, the emptiness, the quiet. I thought it would break me. She looked up with her eyes glossy but calm, but instead, it healed me. Edith smiled then, not that slow, knowing smile that always seemed to come from somewhere deeper than words. The fire burns until there is nothing left to burn, she said softly. And then what remains is stillness, not because the world changed, but because you did. Sophia swallowed hard, her throat aching with a sweetness she couldn't name. I wanted to tell you, to tell him, to tell someone that I finally understood, that the silence wasn't punishment, it was grace. Edith reached across the table and touched her hand lightly, Grace often hides behind what we resist. You listened long enough to hear it. The air between them shimmered, not with heat this time, but with a deep, quiet peace. Sophia felt the truth of Edith's words sink into her like water into parched earth. For the first time, she wasn't waiting for a message, a sign, or a dream. The message had already arrived in her stillness. Edith leaned back in her chair, her eyes glancing towards the window. Outside, a golden leaf spiraled to the ground. Its descent was slow, graceful, and sure. Do you know, she said softly, why meditation matters so much after the fire? Sophia shook her head, her fingers still curled around the warmth of her cup. Because silence, Edith continued, is where the soul learns to speak. Not through noise, not through yearning, not through the smallest vibrations, the things we call signs. Most people expect thunder, but spirit prefers whispers. Sophia's lips curled into a small smile. I think I stopped hearing them for a while, or maybe I just stopped trusting them. Edith nodded. That's natural. When we ache, we question everything. But look closer. Even in your quiet days, signs still found you. She pointed towards the windows, where sunlight fell across the floorboards in a perfect beam. The feather that landed on your window ledge that week, the song that played when you were half awake, the clock that stopped at 11:11. Those aren't accidents. The universe speaks through rhythm. Sophia followed the light with her eyes, remembering each moment, and as Edith spoke, the small white feathers she had brushed aside, the song that made her heart ache and calm at once, the repeating numbers that she had once dismissed as coincidence. I thought I was imagining it all, Sophia whispered. Edith smiled knowingly. Imagination is one of the oldest languages of the divine. Something within Sophia stirred, a familiar warmth, not the consuming fire that she had once knew, but a soft golden glow. It filled her chest slowly, like dawn unfolding after a long night. So the silence, she said quietly, was never empty. Edith's voice was tender as she replied, Never. It was full of your becoming. A stillness deeper than peace settled over Sophia. She realized that she no longer needed to chase the connection. She was the connection. The space that she once feared was now the very bridge that joined her to everything that she loved. Outside, the wind lifted it again, carrying the faint sounds of chimes. Sophia closed her eyes, letting it move through her. For the first time, she didn't ask for meaning, she simply received. The air felt lighter than when she had arrived, and Sophia stepped out of Edith's shop, and the door closed softly behind her with the faintest chime, like the world exhaling. For a moment she stood there, watching sunlight drift between the clouds. The street was the same as before, the same cobblestones, the same rhythm of footsteps, the same distant hum of life, and yet everything felt different. She could feel her breath move through her, not shallow, not hurried, but whole. Each inhale reminded her that she was still here. Each exhale, that she was finally free. Her mind was quiet in a way that she hadn't known before, not empty, just peaceful. The thoughts that used to rush through her like storms now passed softly, like ripples across water. She walked slowly, her fingertips grazing the edges of the shop windows as she passed. A familiar song floated from somewhere, a melody that once played during her dreams of him. It didn't ache this time. It felt like a blessing. Sophia smiled faintly, whispering under her breath, You're still here, just differently. As she turned the corner, a white feather drifted down from above, landing directly at her feet. She laughed softly, not from surprise, but from recognition. The universe has always been speaking. She simply learned how to listen. She knelt, picking it up carefully. The feather glowed in the sunlight, pure, weightless, and alive. And in that moment, Sophia understood. The flame had never died. It had simply quieted, turning inward, becoming light within her. Faith and stillness, love and silence, presence is everything. When she reached her doorstep, she paused, looking up at the sky. A single cloud parted, and a beam of golden light spilled over her. She closed her eyes and let it touch her face. For the first time, there was no longing, no reaching, no ache, only stillness, deep, infinite, and whole. And in that stillness, she felt Christian, not beside her, not above her, but within her. The fire that had once scorched her had become her soul's warmth. Sophia smiled. The world was quiet now, but she had never heard it so clearly.